This lesson is using HTML5 markup. In this lesson, you'll learn about the benefits of the new HTML5 tags, as well as how to use the new header element. Additionally, you'll take a look at methods that ensure that your HTML5 pages work on as many different browsers as possible. Now to begin with, I've opened up the 06 index_work.html page, which is located in the lesson folder. I'm currently viewing this page in Google Chrome 12, the latest version at the time of this recording. That will become important a little later on. For this exercise, we'll be focusing specifically on this header section at the very top of the screen. Let's go ahead and take a look at this in the code. So in the code, we can see that this section was created using a combination of two things. First of all, in the HTML, we have this section, div ID equals masthead, and then the div ends here. Of course, in our CSS page, which is located in the base.css file, we have all the styles for this particular ID. So one of the benefits of HTML5 tags is that it begins to do away with the arbitrary div names that we're used to using in CSS. So div ID equals masthead. Now, one designer might call this masthead, another designer might call this header, and another designer might have a totally different name altogether. The problem with this is that these names are essentially arbitrary. In HTML, we have tags that represent elements on the page. All HTML5 does is add a number of different tags that are a little more specific. For example, header. What you'll be doing here is changing this div tag to the header tag. And of course, we need to change the closing div tag to a closing header tag. That's all there is to it. This header element is one of the new HTML5 header elements. If I save this file, and I go back to Google Chrome, and I refresh my page, I see absolutely no change. This tells me that Google Chrome is using that header tag correctly, and we're in good shape. However, one of the purposes of this video is to show you some of the different complications that can show up using different browsers. So I'm going to close out of Google Chrome here, and I'm going to go ahead and open up Firefox. Now in this demonstration, I'm using Firefox 3.6. Of course, there are later versions, but for the purposes of this exercise, I'm using 3.6 for a particular reason. Let's go ahead and open up that same file. And here we can see a problem. In Firefox, that header tag is not being recognized. The reason for this is that when Firefox 3.6 encounters a tag that it doesn't understand, in this case the header tag, it treats that tag as inline. To fix this problem, as well as the problem with all the other HTML elements, we can add a special rule in our CSS file. You'll go ahead and do that now. Back in the text editor, you're going to want to open your reset.css file. In here, we're going to add a new rule at the very top. In this case, we're creating a list of HTML5 elements: header, section, aside, nav, footer, figure, and fig caption. I want to point out these are not all of the new HTML5 elements. However, these are most of the ones that you'll be using in the exercise. Most importantly, the rule for all of these new elements is this one: display block. Essentially what you're saying is that you're forcing the browser to display these elements as a block style, not an inline style. So I'm going to save this file. Again, I'll go back to Firefox. I'll reload my page, and everything is working the way it should be. So this is great. This simple CSS rule takes care of some of the problems of our HTML5 elements. Again, remember this is only taking place in older browsers that don't understand the HTML5 elements. So we're in very good shape here, but we have one more issue. I'm going to close Firefox, and I'm going to open up Internet Explorer 8. And again, the version number is very important here. I'm going to open up that same file again. And here we seem to have yet another problem. So while that first fix took care of older browsers such as Firefox 3.6 and earlier, Internet Explorer has a completely different problem. In this case, when Internet Explorer 8 and earlier encounters tags it doesn't understand, it completely ignores them. It doesn't treat them as inline at all. So we need to come up with a more sophisticated solution. We'll be adding a link to a JavaScript library called Modernizer. This library will force Internet Explorer 8 and earlier to recognize the HTML5 tags. Let's go back to our text editor, and in the index.work.html file, I'm going to add the following code. So here what I've done is I've created a link to an external JavaScript file that I downloaded from the Modernizer site. But essentially what's happening is this JavaScript file is forcing earlier versions of Internet Explorer to use the HTML5 elements. So let's save this file. And by the way, I should mention that the Modernizer 1.7.js file is located in your lesson folder. Now I'll go back to Internet Explorer 8. I'll reload this page. Again, in my case, because I'm running this locally, I'm going to have to accept this restriction change and allow the block content. And now we're in good shape. Internet Explorer 8 is recognizing the HTML5 tags, and Internet Explorer 8, Firefox 3.6, as well as the latest version of Google Chrome are all rendering the page accurately. That's it for now. In this lesson, you learned a little bit about the benefits of the new HTML5 tags, as well as how to use the new header element. Additionally, you took a look at methods to ensure that your HTML5 pages work on as many different browsers as possible.